Welcome to Satsunami. Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Satsunami. I'm Satsunami, and today I am joined again by my very good friend Adam, who has kindly agreed to talk about this, I want to say cult classic game.
I don't. I like you say kindly. I don't think I could say yes fast enough.
Yeah.
I think before you'd even said, I was like, yes.
It is definitely a classic of some kind.
Oh god, yeah. Yeah, well, that's a fair point. Whatever opinion you have about it, it's classic. Whether it be positive or negative, it's a classic. Positive or whatever positive or negative word you wanna add to the end of that. But yeah.
Oh god, like where do we even begin with this? Because usually we do have a very structured way of talking about things. Although it might not seem like it. There is like a very like structured way of us like talking about different topics on this. But when it comes to Deadly Premonition is just like it's a beast in its own right. Before we get into the meat of the weird and wonderful world of Greenvale, you're going to hate me for this. Would you like to explain not even just the plot, like just what is Deadly Premonition? Don't worry, we don't have that long for
do you know what?
to explain the whole plot.
It's funny here. I'll give an official description from a review site. I think looks like it's from a French review site, and the way they've described it is Deadly Premonition is the unlikely meeting of Shenmue, Silent Hill, and GTA in a Twin Peaks setting. Now, I think that's a disservice to the game. I think that's actually, I don't think that's a very good description, but I think it's quite a good description of if you've never played Deadly Premonition or you don't really know much about it, like kind of in a way like that kind of is quite a succinct way of describing it. But yeah, it's very Twin Peaks-esque. I'll just do a little synopsis. Basically, you play as this FBI agent called Francis York Morgan, who travels to the town of Greenvale in Washington to investigate the murder of a young girl there, which matches similar killings. And when he's there, he enters the kind of open air asylum that is the town of Greenvale with its colorful cast of characters, and more murders happen. Sorry, spoiler, but more murders happen, and he learns about the existence of a fiendish raincoat killer. And basically, the game is his race to solve the murders and prevent any more, and find out who the raincoat killer is, and many other things. But yeah, like it's an open world game with also some kind of survival horror mechanics in there as well. Like there's you've got things like you need to sleep, you need to eat, you actually need to wash and groom yourself as well, things like that. There's lots of different mechanics. It's open world. There's lots of kind of like side missions you can do, like revolving around the different characters and everything. There's a bit of everything. There's lots of combat, lots of driving, exploration, some kind of puzzle solving as well. So it's really got a good mix of everything. I don't know if I've missed anything out in that, but no, I definitely have. But
oh no, you could honestly, I was
keep going, but
yeah, I was reading up.
Drive the audience away.
Oh, well, we could. No, I remember when I was reading up for this particular episode, and there's hours-long videos, hours and hours of people dissecting the plot, dissecting what went right with it, what went wrong with it. It's just so fascinating because, as I said at the beginning, this is a cult classic game, and for good reason. I don't know, it's a marvel, I have to say.
It is a marvel. It's a marvel in every sense of the word.
At face value, so before we get into how we heard about it, first of all, at face value, when you're thrown into the very first level, it just seems like any kind of bad game, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of just to give a bit of context, when we started it, we are kind of gluttons for bad media, aren't we?
We are indeed,
yeah, whether it be a bad film, bad TV show, something that's so funny that we can kind of laugh at it. And I remember the first time we played it, because it was you, me, and it was Craig, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And I do remember my flatmate at the time as well. Also came, and well, I think. Well,
did he not walk out?
He had it. Yeah, he hated it. Which I was going to say, which is one of these things about being such a kind of Marmite game. He he played a little bit of it and watched a little bit, and he absolutely hated it. And as you say, left.
Actually, I love that description. A Marmite game. That is actually,
It's the
yeah.
perfect. It's like honestly, like you could say Marmite game for a lot of other games, but I think this is like the ultimate one. I don't know if any other game gets as close to being as divisive.
I mean, the only other description I would call it is a Stockholm game, and like,
I like that one.
yeah, like I will kind of go into that later, but yeah, it was like you play the first level, the combat's terrible, like the sound effects aren't, they don't match up, like the models are janky and everything, and by the time you get through the first level, you're just like, what is this game? What am I playing? You're just kind of thinking, right, this is going to be terrible. And in the first 5 minutes, you can totally see why people would be turned off by it. Like, before we go into that, because it is a pretty funny memory, but before we go into that, how did you hear about Deadly Premonition? Like, what was your first exposure to it?
So the game came out 2010, right? 2010 it was released. So I didn't hear about it at release, but I think I began to hear about it when it started to develop its kind of cult status, which I think was maybe a year or two afterwards.
Yeah,
was when it started to pick up, because it did not sell well at all, like when it was released. And it released to like largely negative, like critical reviews, but it began to like pick up steam and become kind of, as more people heard about it and its weirdness. So I definitely heard its name mentioned. I would say probably around 2012. 2013 is where I first heard it mentioned, and it sounded kind of interesting. I remember always being interested by it for a long time, and it was one of these games I was like, oh, I really need to get a copy of it and play it, and like, I think I used to. We've got a shop, and I think it's just a UK shop. I don't think it's anywhere else, but we've one called CEX, which is like a kind of secondhand trade-in. You do it with DVDs as well, but it does a lot of games. When I used to go in there sometimes, I'd always like keep an eye out just in case I could see it like a good price. But it was one of these things I was like, oh, I've always got to try it, but I never kind of got round to it. And yeah, so that happened for quite a while. And then I think eventually, was it 2017?
must have been.
Early as 2016, I think 2017. That's when I decided. I was like, right, I actually really want to play this. And like, because we'd obviously been doing the kind of watching bad films. I thought this might be a really fun thing to like just vary up a little bit.
Yeah.
Try playing this kind of game. So yeah, I just ordered a copy and got it, and then I'll leave it there and can pick up the story later. But that's how so I'd heard about it for quite a while. It was one of the things that I'd always kind of had on my radar, but didn't take the plunge for a good few years.
Yeah, I don't blame you, I have to say. Because the way I found it, which I think I was in a similar vein, where it was like, do you remember when you were younger and you would go into like, and this is me showing my age now, but you go into like a Blockbuster, or you would go into like an HMV or something, and you would look around and there was always that one cover that you saw everywhere, whether it was for a game, for a movie. Deadly Premonition was definitely one of them. I always remember the eyes, but it was usually like second-hand shops. It wasn't like Blockbuster or anything, because I think I was probably long dead by the time this game came out. But yeah, it was like a game I'd always seen, and it wasn't until I think it was when there was more on YouTube, and I saw like some cutscenes from it, the infamous Sinner Sandwich cutscene, which is kind of a staple of this channel now. So for anybody who like is listening and thinking, wait, what do you mean by that? When I started doing co-streams with you and our other friend, Stephen, the three of us were trying to think of a name, to call ourselves, because I didn't want to be like, Satsunami +2 or anything. I wanted us to have like...
hanger-ons.
Yeah, it's like... the others. It's like, no, I wanted to like have this group name. So I was kind of like, what can we call ourselves? And then, because we had just played this game, I thought that why don't we call ourselves the Sinner Sandwiches? And then immediately we were all just like, well, you and I were like, yes. And Stephen was just like, wait, what's a Sinner Sandwich?
Esperance got swept up in the
the hype.
Excitement.
Yeah.
The hype, exactly.
Because it's like, the Sinner Sandwich it's like an infamous cutscene where the agent, like the main character, Francis Short Morgan, he goes into a diner and he goes to order lunch, and one of the more eccentric characters goes in and orders it's not even called a Sinner Sandwich, it's like the main character just calls it a Sinner Sandwich. So he gets a sandwich that's essentially turkey, cereal and jam, I think, like put together, jam, like Like, I've seen people try it and it just looks disgusting. But there's always that morbid, but what? That's like,
one day maybe.
One day, when I'm brave enough and I don't have taste
You could do that as a way if you reach a certain number of subscribers.
Yeah, that is true. The 100 subscriber special. I'm gonna eat a Sinner sandwich. But yeah, I'll be editing this bit out. Don't you worry.
You're committed now.
So essentially, in the cutscene, he eats he sees the sandwich, and he kind of looks down on it and calls it the Sinner sandwich because he believes that the person ordering it is trying to atone for past sins. So he's eating like something horrible on purpose to, like, wash away his sins. And the guy's like, well, why don't you try it? So he does. And what follows, I can't do it justice. Like, no matter how I describe it, I cannot do it justice. It's like the faces twist in shock. It's like the game came out in 2010, but you really wouldn't be able to know that.
Yeah.
Judging by their expressions. It is, it's incredible. So it's like he goes nuts over this sandwich. That was a long way for me to say that was my introduction into it. So it's like I'd seen it, but I never had the that, and I was going to say I never had the chance to play it, but also I don't know, it's like I've got a huge backlog of games. Yeah, it's like I had it on, the back burner, and I'm like, should I play it? Should I not? And then the opportunity came a-ringing when you said, I'm going to play through Deadly Premonition. And I'd seen, like, clips of it, like other people playing it. And this is something, so, as I said, when I was, like, looking this game up before the episode, this is definitely, so there's a lot of gamers out there, like, co-op, or not co-op, but co-streamers, that they'll try to riff over the game, because obviously they're playing up for the audience. And I feel as if that is quite a detriment to the game, because, see the first, like, half hour or so, or hour, depending on how fast you get through that bit. So essentially the game begins when you're driving into this town of Greenvale, but you end up crashing your car, not before you avoid a squirrel that makes like a monkey noise, which it's a really weird thing. It's like just a normal squirrel, but it makes like the sound of like a frightened monkey, and then it runs away, and you're like, what is this game? And then you get like to this bit where you have to fight these zombie things called shadows, and you have to like just keep shooting them. You learn the basic mechanics of like the combat system, and just basically how the game's going to work. And then after that you have to like go across the longest bridge in history, and then you meet up with what's his face, George and Emily, is it, the sheriff and the, I want to say deputy, but one of the other police officers, yeah. And I feel as if you played it up to that, because that's what a lot of people seem to say. They played it up to, so it's like there's a couple of small things in between, and then there's a hospital level, which is like the first major bit. And a lot of people say they just gave up by then because the combat is just so janky and nobody, like, I'm not going to lie to you guys, it's terrible. Like, the combat system is by far one of the worst, like, shooters I think I've ever played. I mean, I don't know, what do you think about that, Adam?
I'd honestly extend and say the controls for the whole game are terrible. Like all the controls for anything, the driving, the combat, there's the bit that always makes me laugh, because I remember when we first played it, like, so as you say, you have the first bit in the hospital, but then like you go to like an abandoned like sawmill.
Oh yeah.
After that, which is like your first kind of crime scene, you have to investigate, and it's also you have your first proper meeting there with the raincoat killer, and that like because you go into this room and this telephone starts ringing. And then you answer it, and then it's kind of the raincoat killer, and you kind of switches, the screen kind of splits, and so you've got like your view, but then also like goes and you go for the raincoat killer's eyes, and you see he's going towards the door, and that bit's really well done. And you have to basically find a hiding spot in the room before he breaks down the door, and then you've got to do like a few things like hold your breath while he's like searching around the room, and that's actually really well done. And actually quite tense first time you play it, and so you do that. But then there's a bit later on where he starts to chase you, the controls for the chase scene are the worst controls I think I've ever seen in the game, any sequence. I mean, the one good thing about them is they make it that much more tense because it is the most unintuitive. So it's like, for the most of the part, like, for most of the game, you like move around using the left thumbstick, or what, I don't know what it would be on PC, but I presume WSAD. But you're using the kind of standard controls. But so we played this on the Xbox 360. But when the chase sequence happens, like you have to for some reason, like you like flick the left thumbstick back and forward, left and right, don't you? Is what I seem to recall you have to do. For some reason, that becomes the movement control as he's running away, and it is horrible and it's so clunky, and it makes it like that much more difficult to do. But it does make it a bit more tense. I'm not gonna lie, but I remember us just howling at this bit, being like, why have you done this?
Yeah, because it like shows you a prompt of just this wiggling joystick, and I think you and I looked at one another just like, no. No, they surely couldn't do this, and then we realised like what we'd gotten ourselves into.
Yeah,
and I was just like, oh god, yeah.
So honestly, I think the controls are just awful. Like for the whole thing, like honestly, they're just clunky and it just makes no sense.
That is the paradox of it, though, because on the one hand, like at face value, it's like another or it looks like another terrible game with like bad controls, like janky models and everything, as I was saying. And you think, why bother playing it anymore?
Yeah.
But see, and this is why I've called it a Stockholm game, because it's like you have to like keep playing it. Now, normally I wouldn't say this. Normally I would say, life is short. If you don't like a game, put it down, walk away, get some fresh air, see your loved ones. Well, no, don't see your loved ones because it's a lockdown. But,
think about your loved ones.
Yeah, think about your loved ones from a socially distant place. But, it's like the way we played it in quite an interesting way, because we only played it in like a couple hour stints. So, first of all, it was you, me, and Craig, and then Craig, I can't remember, but we weren't like all free. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we weren't all free at the same time, so it was like it was you and I. The burden fell on you and I to finish it. And
the intrepid adventurers that we are.
That's true. The sweaty crusaders. But we played it, and it was weird. It almost became like, like something to look forward to, if you know what I mean. It was like, whenever like the stars aligned and we were able like to meet up, will we try and get through some more Deadly Premonition? And it's like, yeah, sure. And yeah, it was like I'd come over, bring snacks or vice versa, and we would just play this game. And the more we got into it, so going back like quickly just to what you were saying before, a lot of people criticise this game for being very similar to Twin Peaks, and apparently, I was laughing at this, apparently Swery initially did say, this has got nothing to do, or not nothing to do, but it wasn't inspired by Twin Peaks. That is a filthy lie. That is definite. Like, there's literally like a cameo in the game where it's like a nurse reading a book, which is clearly Twin Peaks. And it's like, what's that book about? And it's like, it's about this small town girl who gets murdered and all of this and supernatural stuff. And he's like, that sounds like a good book. Like winking to the camera. It's like, oh god. And there's even apparently a picture of Laura Palmer, the
really?
So the girl who gets killed in Twin Peaks. Don't worry, it's not a spoiler. I was going to say, like, she literally the first 5 minutes. Yeah, it's literally the reason for the show. But yeah, so there's like a lot of references in that way, and that's actually one of the things that delayed it apparently, because, and this is like my first wee bit of trivia coming in here, I was saying this to Adam before the stream, that I'm like so excited to talk about this that I've actually got a list. Like I've actually got notes and a list, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. So yeah, apparently like before it came out, it was actually developed. Did you know this? It was developed in 2004.
Really?
Yeah, that's when they started it. And initially, they were aiming for the PlayStation 2, but they said,
is that why the graphics look like the way they do?
Well, apparently. So this is really weird. Like, see, the more and more I learn about this game, the more and more I can understand a lot. Except, like, the controls. The controls are a bit sucky. But apparently, I think there was a moment where they said, should we, up the, like, the assets and things? And they were just like, nah, it's fine. And it's like, Oh no! But apparently they had different people in the game.
Okay.
So instead of Francis York Morgan, who's the guy that you take control of, you instead control, or you were meant to control, a guy called David Young.
Oh.
Now, do you recognise the name there, David Young?
Oh wait, is that the guy from Is that the
D4.
guy from that D4?
Yeah,
Yeah.
D4. Which I was like, oh god, sweaty, just let the idea go. That's like, no.
Oh, he really helped David Young, didn't he? Really helped that
Yeah.
character.
So apparently it was more aligned. So it was called Rainy Woods initially. But then, for whatever reason, they had some legal issues. They had to drop the name. There was like a whole back and forth. And apparently, the game got cancelled 4 times.
Wow.
Imagine that. Like, imagine any other game, getting cancelled 4 times. It's absolutely insane.
That's mental that like they just kept bringing it back and stuff and then didn't give up on it. Do games generally survive more than one cancellation?
I don't think so. This game is very, like, genuinely, even, like, despite the janky controls and, like, terrible ports, which we will get onto, but, like, this game will not die. Like, there is definitely a cult following, and I put the emphasis on cult, because there is definitely, like, a huge following for this game. Well, not a huge, like, you know what I mean, like, a dedicated following, more like...
Oh, we're part of that. We're card-carrying members of that cult.
Oh, exactly. I mean, what game is it? Is it COD? We've got our name is like Sweaty or something.
Yeah.
Or like
God.
group
We're
right?
doing it. Our cult members, oh God.
I know we are just
Oh my God.
spreading the word. But yeah, it was that kind of. It baffles me. I have to admit, it baffles me that this game was cancelled 4 times, and supposedly. Yeah, sorry, I'm just gonna start gushing with all the trivia here, but apparently because the actor for Francis York Morgan, the main character, apparently because he recorded his lines as David Young, he had to actually come back and re-record everything.
Oh my God.
So imagine this, you're a voice actor, right? You've recorded everything for this game, and he says his name a lot in this game. He says it a lot. So he goes home, a couple of years pass, he thinks, I wonder what happened to that game. Gets a call, and the guy's just like, yeah, we're gonna need you to come back because we need you to re-record your lines because we renamed the main character. It's just baffling. It is absolutely
That's
baffling.
amazing.
Yeah, because apparently it was he was interviewed about it, and it just seems insane. It's such a crazy and interesting development cycle for this game.
Although I am glad to hear that it was the same voice actor. They always had the same voice actor in mind. Because when you said David Young, I started to think about the voice actor who plays him in that D4 game, which I remember it's like a horrible
Brooklyn.
stereotypical Boston accent.
Oh, Boston, sorry, yeah.
You a co-op, just that kind of
I
all
want to
that
be a
stuff.
co-op.
I can't imagine D4 was Sweary's his next, I think it was his next game. I don't want to talk much about it, but the main character has a horrible Boston accent, and it didn't last very long. But I'm just imagining having to go through all of Deadly Premonition with that horrible Boston accent.
It would have been horrific. I was going to say there were some bits to like about that game, but yeah, the Boston accent was not in it. It was far too. Whereas with the main character here, it's quite. I'm not an expert in American accents, but it's quite more neutral.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. Yeah, it's not in your face. It's not going to slap you over the face with saying, "Can you tell I'm from here?" It's no, none of that, fortunately. So yeah, they had to change everything. They had to change the name. They had to change. Although I think some of the places, if you go in the game again, which I know you will be after this, apparently there's some places still named after the old town. So there's Rainy Woods. I think there's a bar or something like that.
Okay.
Which it's quite interesting. But apparently they were quite critical towards Swery, though. Saying things to him oh, the game will never succeed, it's too weird. I mean, they had a point in the last bit, but I honestly feel as if it's a bit of a disservice when people outright criticise it and say oh, it's just, a Twin Peaks clone, it's not it's like, oh, it's just another bad game that's ripping off something. I mean, initially, and I have to admit, I would be lying if I said that it didn't kind of borrow, or what's the other word? Pay homage.
It's heavily inspired. I
Heavily.
would say, like,
At least-
heavily inspired, but it has its own. It goes its own way.
Yeah.
It follows its own path.
I mean, at least for the first half, I will say that, or for the first like act of it. So yeah, the main character, I'll just call him York for short, because I keep saying Francis York Morgan. So York basically is going around trying to find out who the killer is, and throughout his adventure, he's meeting all these like weird and wonderful characters throughout the town of Greenvale. Yeah, there are a lot of inspirations. Like you've got the no-nonsense sheriff, you've got the quite emotional like deputy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
Oh,
Thomas.
Yeah, I know. We'll talk about him later, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you've got the diner as well. You've got, like, a lot of the set pieces are very, very similar. So it's, I'm not saying it rips it off, but it's definitely heavily inspired, at least for that bit.
Oh, yeah.
But then later on, one of the other characters gets murdered, and soon it becomes clear that it's a serial killer going around, and it's just your race to like stop them while working with the local police. And the way to do that is very, how to put it, it's all in real time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry, I just loved how you just went, yeah, and then that was it. Like, no follow-up comment, just, yeah.
It's all real time. Yeah, but I mean, it does actually have some. It's funny because it does actually have some kind of interesting like systems and stuff. Because, as you say, it's all real time. It's a day and night cycle. But like the NPCs as well, like this, lots of the characters like have their own routine. So you can see them driving around, like when you're driving around doing stuff, and so like you're only able to interact with some of them at specific times, because they're doing other things. So it is interesting, like that kind of element of it. It does make Greenvale seem a bit more like actual real place, a bit of a living place, like despite the kind of like despite the janky graphics and character models and everything. It does like because people have these routines and stuff. It does make it feel a bit more lifelike than you might get in some other kind of games.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, the thing I was actually laughing at, and I think I told you this a couple of weeks ago, was so the main controversy right now through like about video games, which is probably going to do this episode, is about Cyberpunk just now. The thing they had said in Cyberpunk was, oh, like all the characters have like a routine, and then of course someone like went on and like proved this wrong, and I could not stop laughing because I thought, how did Deadly Premonition get it right, but Cyberpunk couldn't?
I mean, they had almost comparable development cycles. Like,
oh god, okay, yeah, I'll give you that.
Years long, but perhaps it was maybe because just to throw a little shade at CD Projekt Red, perhaps it was because Swery spent the time actually designing the game rather than hyping it up for 8 years.
Okay, I'll give you that one. That is quite a good one. So yeah, this game came out for it was the Xbox 360, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was maybe was it just that it came out?
Initially, but there are versions. So I'm going to like talk a little bit about this. Do you know like about all the different versions?
I know there's a director's. So obviously there's the standard game itself. There's a director's cut, isn't there?
Yeah.
As well, which I think is maybe the one that we played. I have a feeling it might be the one that we played.
I think it was. Yeah, must have been.
I think the director's cut is one that has like the Raincoat Killer like straight on the box. So I think that's one I've got. And then I know there's like a Switch port as well. Is there more versions? Is there?
So there's an Xbox version, like Xbox 360. There's a PlayStation version. There's also a Japanese version, which apparently it's region locked, so you can only play it on a Japanese PlayStation 3.
Strange.
But it's not called Deadly Premonition. It's called like Red Seed Profile.
Oh, I have heard that actually.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Which I think is meant to be the same game, but the only difference is it's like not in Japanese, but the subtitles are in Japanese. But everything else is the same, like the game's in English. It's a bit of a strange like port, but apparently it's more expensive as well. But yeah, but no, that's the fun porting fact of the day. just in case. So there's also another PS3 version which I cannot believe, and this actually opened my eyes to like something that I never knew existed. So apparently the PlayStation 3, to compete with the Nintendo 3DS.
Yeah.
I don't know how true this is, whether they were competing with the 3DS or not, but apparently there was a thing that Sony released and they've got like a 3D mode for like a 3D
really?
mode for the PlayStation 3.
Deadly Premonition.
And Deadly Premonition is one of those games, yeah. You have to use the PS Move to actually do it, to play it.
Oh my! That is the only way I can think to make these controls any worse is to add motion controls. Oh my god!
Yeah, so it's like I don't know what they were thinking, but yeah, that was a thing apparently. And I was sitting there throughout the entire time thinking, I can't believe I'm watching a video about Deadly Premonition, and this is how I find out the PS3 had 3D graphics.
That's amazing.
I'm like, how? Oh, I honestly, like, all games, I thought, how does Deadly Premonition? How is that one of the games that got like this 3D thing? And
what a fascinating game this really is. Like,
really, like, see, once you go down the rabbit hole, by the way, like, initially, all I wanted was just a synopsis, like, of the plot. And the further and further you go down, it's insane. It's just so, like, what is going on here?
That's quite incredible.
Yeah. So that came out, and then eventually they released it on the PC, which is widely considered as the worst port, apparently, because it just instantly crashes. So so apparently someone like, not the company themselves, like somebody else put out a port or not a port, but like a mod for it to fix it.
Yeah.
It still doesn't work apparently, which is like, oh, which is a bit. It's a bit worrying. So basically, yeah, it's like people are trying to fix it and trying to make it stable, but I don't think it's working, if I'm honest. Like, I don't know, I think. Like, people usually say avoid it, but then they re-released it again with the director's cut, and it's like, what? Oh. So apparently the director's cut, which I'm wondering if that is the one we played, because apparently some of the director's cuts have extra cutscenes, and it's the main character like looking back on it, and this like girl asking like, oh, what did you do in Greenvale? And it's horrifying when you think like this old man's like telling this wee girl like, well, I saw a serial murder, he hacked someone wide open. It's like, oh Jesus, oh no. So yeah, there was that version, and then yeah, the Switch version came out, which I think cut back, and apparently that's prone to crashing as well. So yeah, there's just so many versions of this game. There's just so many, like,
just adds to its legend.
It really does. It's like, it's almost like the reverse Skyrim, where it's like it keeps coming out for consoles, but not many people are asking for. I mean, don't get me wrong, not many people are asking for Skyrim, but people will still play it. Yeah, sorry. Before like we kind of go into the game itself, you know, with like spoilers and things, just out of curiosity, do you have any trivia points or anything like that?
No, I don't know. I heard that you were deep into the trivia, so I left.
Are you sure?
No, I unfortunately don't have any fun trivia. But I don't know if there's anything that I could say that betters what you've just told me.
No,
So-
honestly, it's such, like, I would recommend, like, to you guys listening, I would recommend you just like look into this, because it's crazy. Just the whole development of this game is just, and it's even got a board game as well.
It's a board game.
It's like, I think
That's it. I'm gonna look this up right now.
yeah, you look it up as I go on with the trivia train.
Keep the train rolling. I'll be back soon.
No, apparently it's like a crowd-funded one, I think. But yeah, there's actually a board game. It's insane because, as I said, like at the surface, you would just consider this a bad game, just like anything else. But the more time you spend with it, the more you kind of start to feel like, you know, the more endeared you get towards it. Would you say? Is endeared the right word?
Totally. Oh no, totally. Like I do think it is one of these things that I think you do have to kind of push yourself maybe through the kind of some parts of it. I think you're right. That first bit takes a bit of getting used to, because you're like these, just to get used to the controls and their jankiness. Mm-hmm. There's also a bit in the middle of it. I remember that we there's one point we had one session where it was just like, I think it was just 2 hours of us just like trotting back and forth, and we weren't really getting any of the story, and it was quite a slog. I think if you can push yourself through that, it is like a really rewarding experience, and there's a lot to really like in the game. But I think as well, like I don't know if we'll discuss this right now, but I think there's a difference between playing the game by yourself and also playing it with somebody. I don't know if you want to like save that discussion towards the end.
No, we can do it just now because I totally agree with you. But sorry, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about this as well, and like, so I've only ever played this game once, and that was with you. Like, and the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, I think that really is maybe the way to play this game. Like, because I was thinking, like, I was trying to imagine if I'd played it by myself, and I think I don't know, like, I think I probably would have played it through. I used to be quite a bad like completionist. I was like, even if I wasn't enjoying a game, I was like, no, I paid for this game, I must play it through and get my So I've kind of kicked that like habit now, but thankfully. But like, so I think I probably would have played it through, but I don't know if I'd have had the same experience with it. I have to admit, because I think there's so much fun to this game with just experiencing it with somebody else and just laughing at it and like trying to guess its twists and turns and like just really enjoying it. And also as well, it means that someone can believe you when you talk about it because someone's seen it. You know, you're just talking to people and people are like, all right, what acid trip have you come off from all the stuff you're describing? So I really think it helps to push through some of the bits where it is a bit kind of slower and it is a bit sluggish. Just somebody's going to like, you know, be there and you can kind of switch it up as well and share the burden, but also share all the fun. And like, so I really think, not to say I'm sure like you can play fun playing this yourself as well, but I really think I'm really glad that I played it with like, well, I'm glad I played it with somebody else and I'm glad it was with you, somebody who also really, really got into it as well. Like, especially if you really get into it. Like, it's nothing quite like it. Like, you're really like psyched to push through. And we had so much fun, like trying to guess who the raincoat killer was and like what was happening and stuff. And that was a lot of fun, like kind of seeing how close we got and everything as well. So
just for kind of context, like we had like a good couple of breaks in between each session, didn't we? Yeah,
that's true.
Because everyone keeps saying in the reviews, oh, it's so obvious who the killer was and everything. And as like excited as I was like to get back into the game, I refused to like look up any spoilers, any like gameplay clips in case it like spoiled it. You know, like I would forget bits of like what we had played and think, okay, who's that guy? Who's this guy? And it honestly was like a bonding experience. Like,
oh, it really was.
As weird as that sounds, that's what I was saying to you earlier off stream, but it's like, it's definitely a bonding experience. Like, I feel as if it's like made our friendship like stronger somehow. In like some weird way, like going through Deadly Premonition and being like, we got through it.
I think this might be. I'll go a step further. I think playing for Deadly Premonition might be the defining experience of our friendship.
Do you know? I can't disagree with you. I think you're right.
I think everything that's happened now is a product of having played
Deadly Premonition. Yeah. Because, right, let me tell you, like, how much we loved this game. Like, so much so that I remember when I think I came over to you to play the game and we nearly completed it. And we will get into, like, spoilers kind of later. But, yeah, long story short, you get to the end. It's a very cheap boss fight. It's like a terrible... Like, I did not enjoy that at all. But,
horrible bit.
Although, sorry, before I go on, apparently the combat wasn't even, like, meant to be in the game.
Ooh,
like, so fun fact, yeah. So it's like they kind of sloppily just, like, shoved it in, which actually makes a lot more sense.
That does, actually.
It doesn't excuse it, but it definitely makes a lot more sense when you look at the combat and you're like, oh, this is terrible. And it's like, well, yeah, you know, that's why.
What was it? Was it supposed to be more kind of investigation kind of stuff?
Yeah, apparently it was like more of a kind of murder mystery, and I'm assuming it would probably be quite similar to what D4 turned out to be.
Okay.
Or similar in a way that you just walked around. Because apparently, and I can't like verify this next fact, but I think it was supposed to be set in like a city, but they had to like scale it down because of the like memory restrictions or limitations, and that's why you also don't see people walking in the streets. So you see cars and you see like things like that, but you don't see like people walking about. You see them inside the buildings but not outside, and yeah, that's the reason why, apparently. But yeah, sorry, going back to my point. So you were coming to my house, I remember that. Like, we were so like keen to get to the end of the game that you actually brought your Xbox 360 over to me. Just so, like, because I wasn't sure whether or not I had I can't even remember. I wasn't sure whether you could plug your your hard drive into my 360, and I didn't know where it was going to work, so you were just like, yeah, screw it, we're bringing the whole console. So, yeah, you brought the whole console, we completed it. See, this is the thing, though. Like, we got so much enjoyment out of this game, but we only played through the main plot. We didn't do many of the side quests, which actually is a bit rubbish, because it turns out, slight spoiler, that if you do one of the side quests, you can actually unlock a fast travel mechanic.
That's amazing.
Which, yeah, I did not know that, but apparently you can. And I was absolutely raging because, well, on the one hand, that's what I was saying to you. I was saying, I was raging that we didn't know about this. And then you came back at me and said, like, on the other hand, we wouldn't have been able to have, like, the experiences with, like, driving and So, like, every so often, York talks to an imaginary person who's supposed to be, like, the player. So he calls him Zach, and he'll say, like, oh, did you see that, Zach? And things like that, to include the player, which I think's, like, absolutely genius.
Oh, it's really good.
Yeah, it's like, he'll do that, but if you're driving for long periods of time, he'll start, like, talking about, just random stuff, like 80s movies and things like that. Because there was a whole thing where we drove from, like, one side of the town to the other. Oh my god, what was he talking about again? It was, like, 80s.
The bonus features on the DVD, was it not? He was, like, talking about, like, how if you have an 80s film, like, there's not as many bonus features. There's only like a theatrical trailer. Of modern films, there's tons of bonus. And this conversation went on for, as you say, from one end of the town to the other. And was that the conversation that we got to, like, close to the marker?
Yeah.
One of these ones you had to drive into the marker, and we kept going a little closer, and we thought he'd stop talking, so we were driving closer. Then he would start talking, and we're like, oh, hit the brakes again. We're just like edging our way slowly towards the mission start marker. Like, oh, are you done? Are you done? Okay. Oh no, he's not done yet. I just remember laughing at that song.
Oh, it was ridiculous. It was so funny though, because you were like thinking, because he like stopped talking, and then 2 seconds later he's like, and another thing, and you're like, oh no, okay. But see, that's the thing though. Like, I do think, like, one of the great things about this game is you can talk about it. And I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, like, but you can talk about any game, but it's like, it's a game that has a lot of memorable moments. Like, whether it's the Sinner Sandwich scene, whether it's that, whether it's, like, the sound design and things like that. There's a lot of things that are purposely done. Like, going back to what you were saying as well about the characters going around town. Apparently, if you follow certain characters around, it gives away, like, the end game quite a lot. Like, certain characters going into certain basements and...
like, if you were to follow, like... Oh, that's really cool.
It's... Because I actually didn't know this, and that's what somebody else was saying as well, that apparently they played through the game, they 100%ed it, they were like, oh, I love this game, and then someone turned around to them and said, did you get that conversation with Emily or whoever? And they go, wait, what conversation? And apparently, depending on the weather, that also triggers off events. Or, like, certain conversations. So there's, like, so much detail in this game. As I said, at face value, you would just think, oh, it's just, just another terrible game. And then when you actually peel that back, you see, oh, no, wait, this is fascinating. They're like,
oh, yeah.
It's definitely a town that's, like, soaked in character. Like, there's so many. Like, sorry, just, like, this is my last bit of trivia. Don't worry, guys.
No, like, the trivia's
one thing I actually noticed, and I wondered if this was done on purpose, which it turns out it was, which I was like, oh my god. So at the beginning, how to put that? You know what, will we go into spoiler territory now?
Might as well just say this is spoiler territory.
Yeah, okay, this is spoiler territory. I'm putting down the flag, spoilers from here on out. Throughout the game, you meet, like, a wide array of characters, and something I noticed was the victims at the very beginning. So the first girl who gets killed is called Anna, so of course begins with an A. And I was thinking about the other victims, and the other victims, spoilers, are B through E. There's also other ones, but, like, the main ones that get killed off, it's like you've got A to and B to E. And because I was thinking of the other names, and I thought, I wonder if that extends to the rest of the characters. And apparently it does. So if you look at, the names of the characters and you group them up, like, based in the alphabetical order, they're, like, grouped into particular, sets. Like, there's one family that's grouped together because it's like the twins and the dad or the granddad. Like, IJK or something like that. Like with Zack in York, YZ. Now, the interesting thing about that, actually, and of course, sorry, the victims, ATE, but the victim, not the victims, like York and Zack. So at the end, I'm just trying to think, how can I explain this? Do you want me to do this and say, like, what happens? So
you go for it.
Right, so basically it turns out that the Deadly Premonition, the the raincoat colour going around was the result of it was like a experiment in the 50s gone wrong.
Yeah,
where,
it's like US military, don't they really?
Yeah, the US military come to Greenvale in the 50s, pump this gas through the town which makes everyone go insane, and there's this one guy who is of course, the raincoat killer, who goes around absolutely demolishing people, and that becomes like a legend. So it's kind of like that persona's passed on down the line, and you find out that there's also this, I want to say, demon creature or something that has like been pulling the strings as well to that.
Yeah.
So it was like, that was when we found out who the raincoat killer was. I was just like, because I think I guessed that right.
You guessed it.
Well,
right.
I guessed the raincoat killer, but I didn't guess the other one. So we're like both right. So I was like, oh
yeah. I guess the demon, but I didn't obviously know it was a demon at the time. Like I guessed that person, but you guessed who the raincoat killer. So it was kind of good that we both got it.
Yeah, because I thought, oh, the game's over, and then like once the penny dropped and you realised the guy, you were just like, oh no, oh no. It was just like, you thought, shit, we're going to have to, like, take out this guy. So it's revealed that the big bad ends up kidnapping your, how to put this, like, your love interest. And even though York is a bit of a dick at the beginning, he keeps calling, like, Greendale, like, a primitive world and things like that. Like, very, like, your stereotypical, FBI agent, kind of big city and everything. And
yeah. He's almost the opposite of Dale Cooper, isn't he? Where Dale Cooper kind of comes to Twin Peaks and is actually, like, kind of really positive and, kind of, like, likes where he is and wants to kind of experience the town. York is almost the kind of like the other side of the coin.
Oh,
no,
like, absolutely.
Sort of like, cynical.
Yeah, because it's really interesting the way they do that. But yeah, so he gets his love kidnapped, and they end up showing, I think, is it the theatre they go to?
Yeah, I think it's the theatre.
And it turns out that this gas that's been, like, going around is made from... So sorry, like, let me quickly backtrack. Basically, the link between all the victims that get killed in the game is they've got red seeds in their mouth or in their stomachs, and those red seeds are coming from these red trees that in turn is what created that, like, smoke. It's an easy plot to follow. So yeah, it's these red seeds that he's sticking in people and, they're growing trees out of people. It's really weird.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what happened to York's mum. Throughout the game, it's like they sometimes flash back to him looking at his dad, who has a gun pointed at her. And it isn't revealed until the end. It pans out and it shows you who's actually responsible for it. And the tree coming out her stomach and everything.
Yeah.
That this is what's happened, and he's like repressed this memory, like deep down, and he's created like this alter ego to protect himself, known as York. So of course, when Zack comes out, so you think throughout the game Zack is just,
it's like a cipher for the players.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a placeholder for us, but then he actually comes out, and it's just like a palette swap. It's just him with white hair. It's fascinating. I thought they did that really well. Like, I did not...
It's such a good twist.
Yeah, I did not see that coming. I was like, wow, this is actually... for a game that began with, like, monkey noise squirrels and bad shooting, like, it's not what you expect. And then, then you chase down the boss, and the boss fight's terrible. I'm just going to say that. Like, you try to rescue your love and you can't, like, shoot her, even though, like, you get flashbacks to your dad saying, you have to do what must be done, to protect the ones you love, and he can't do it, so she just, like, tears it out herself and ends up dying. So he has to, like, fight this huge demon, and there's like 3 stages of it. There's one where you have to shoot him and he's like this massive bloated thing crawling up the ceiling. You have to run away from him again with those like joy stick controls, which is it's terrible. And then the final one, which I think is the worst one for us. So basically, the main big bad like expands, and basically you're on the top of this clock tower, and he like blows up, and he's like towering over. So you have to shoot him like so many times. Turns out we could have got a better gun to make it easier for ourselves, but we didn't. So we just
had the fun in that?
Yeah, so we just had like a pistol. Apparently you can get like a lightsaber in the game and everything. And I was like, well, really? Like a light sword, apparently. But yeah, I was like looking at it.
So much in this game.
Oh, we really did. We need to go back.
Well, I should have to go back and do it.
We really do. But yeah, it's like once you like shoot him and get him down to like the low health, you have to climb up his arm, and then he's got a doll version of himself, and you have to like shoot that. Yeah, because you did it, like you killed him and then you ran up and you went to shoot the doll and you couldn't, and it was like
But then the thing was to make it even. That was one thing. You're like,
yeah.
You get all his health back if you miss, so you have to start all over again. I was just like, Yeah, like, thankfully it was the end of the game, and I was like, right, we're gonna see this through. Yeah. I think I gave it to you. I think you were the one who managed to.
No, we actually didn't. Yeah, but no, we didn't complete it. Remember, because I came over.
We came back and did it.
Yeah, we had to return another day, and it was just like, oh my goodness. Yeah, that was one of the worst boss fights, I have to say. I mean, like, see thematically and story wise. I mean,
it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's no worse than any of the other combat.
Oh, yeah. True.
So it's fitting in that way. It's on brand of being just awful clicky combat.
The other thing I was just thinking of there, like going back to the AZ thing. So remember how I was saying it was like York and Zack? And I think the dad's called Xander, like, with an X. And the mum's called Y something. But the W is for a certain dog. Willie? The dog.
Oh, yeah?
So he's put in between Zack and York and their mum and dad, like in the credits, which I think, see from a kind of like thematic point of view, it's like, okay, that makes sense. So sorry, to explain, there is a dog, like a Dalmatian, that has, by the way, one of the best themes in the game. Like, look it up, it's great. It follows like people around the town, and it turns out that it's like I want to say like a gatekeeper or something, or like a watcher for like the main demon thing, which is, again, it's like it's insane, but it's like one of those things that's like, it works in context. Trust me, it works in context. But yeah, apparently it's like that is the character that splits like the main character from like the parents and everything. And considering like what happens to his family, like it's interesting in that way. And the only reason I bring that up, because it might seem like I'm kind of saying, oh, so they got it in alphabetical order, so what? Because apparently there's another character that's name starts with a W, and it's like they could have like easily chosen him, but they didn't. They chose the dog, and it's like, well, why did they do that? And it's like everything in this game kind of has a purpose, which I think is severely underlooked in the game.
Totally. I didn't know like half the stuff that you're saying, but it really does go to show, as you say, like the actual thought and craft that was put into this. Just everything, and you've got to admire it for that. Like, just for the. Like this is almost like an artistic vision, and I have often seen this game mentioned as like an example of like a game as art, a video game as art. I think in many ways it is, like just from that idea of somebody's vision and the fact they stuck to it despite 4 cancellation.
Yeah, because I wonder what this game would be like if it did have the proper support to begin with.
I think it's like, it was funny when you were talking about the combat being kind of like forced in. And I was thinking, I was like, it would probably make it a much better game if they did take the combat out, or like thoroughly reduced it. But then I don't know, like I almost wonder if this is one of these like finely balanced things. Do you know what it reminds me of? Do you know that episode of The Simpsons where the doctor comes to examine Mr. Burns, every single disease, but they're all in like perfect harmony. Yeah. So he's like, it's not dying. I'm almost wondering if like this game, if Deadly Premonition, is exactly like that. And if you were to like tweak bits of it and like change parts of it, it might just crumble and all fall apart. Perhaps it is just perfectly finely balanced. And, like, even these bits that we think are a bit of a drag, if you changed those and mucked around with those, it would kind of ruin the whole experience.
I can't think of another game like Deadly Premonition.
No, there's no other game.
It's easy enough to say because you see, like, this is kind of going back to what you were saying about should you play this game with someone else or should you play this game, by yourself?
Yeah.
I feel as if, like, there's a lot of Let's Players that jumped on the bandwagon for this game to be like, oh, it's so bad, it's good, oh, let's, go and make fun of this and riff over it, and, oh,
Yeah.
what the hell, like, very kind of, obviously entertaining to the crowd. And don't get me wrong, it's like, the first couple of minutes, or not couple of minutes, but, like, the first act of it, before you actually get into the main town of Greenvale, it's a bit of a slog, and I can understand why people are a bit annoyed by it. I feel as if that does, like, quite a disservice to the game.
I think it does, and you're totally right as well. Like, I don't think there's any game, and that's why when I started saying, like, I quoted that article that was like it's a mix of like Shenmue, Silent Hill, and GTA and a Twin Peaks setting. I think is like while it's maybe a good way to explain to somebody who's like doesn't know about it and stuff. I do think it is a disservice because I don't actually think Deadly Premonition is anything like those three games. Like maybe superficially it shares some stuff, but I don't think it's anything like GTA, Silent Hill, or Shenmue, and even like saying it's a Twin Peaks game. Like, there's other games that have been inspired by Twin Peaks. Stuff like Alan Wake to an extent. Oh, the other one's got out of my mind now. But there's like other games, Silent Hill as well to an extent, I suppose. Yeah. So there's like other games that have been, but like as much as it's inspired by Twin Peaks, it's its own. It really is its own thing, and it is very different, and it's so unique. And I think you're right. It might be the most unique video game there is. I honestly can't think of a comparable game.
I was going to say, it reminds me of a joke where it's like, there's like a sound clip going around just now being riffed on where it's someone saying, my child is perfectly normal. It's like us defending this game, and then people actually watch or play Deadly Premonition, and it's just like, yeah, I swear it's normal.
Our child is the furthest thing from normal. That's what makes it amazing.
Yeah, that's why it's deadly.
Exactly.
But I have to admit, I think, like, if you hadn't bought it and, said, oh, let's play it, because I think, as you were saying before, we used to watch, like, a lot of bad films with Craig, so without, like, doing that, I think we're just on, like, a bad media binge, really. And, Deadly Premonition is always the game that comes, like, straight to the top, is like, oh, if you want to play, like, a bad, video game, let's play Deadly Premonition. It's hard to say whether it deserves to be on there, because don't get me wrong, like gameplay wise, see if you look at this objectively on the gameplay scale, terrible game, absolutely terrible. But if you look at like the detail and basically the story, don't get me wrong, the writing's not like the writing's weird, but at the same time, it's like it's what makes it endearing though. It's like what makes the characters so, I want to say likeable, but sometimes they're really not. Like, they're really in your face, and you're kind of like, yeah, please back off. Or it's like when the camera zooms in, like, you might see a lot of, like, images of York's face just, like, stretched, and he's smiling, and you're like, please never smile again. Please.
Please don't.
And I wonder, like, as I said, I wonder if they had, like, better resources and things, if they could have pulled, like, something better. And I don't mean, like, better as in what it is, but I mean, like, to make it look better.
Yeah.
Or
definitely, like,
to, like, polish up certain things. But, I mean, it's as you said, if you take away one element, would the other ones kind of crumble?
Yeah. I should say, it's such an interesting, like, case, because we both love this game. We both think it's, like, incredible. But it's funny, because it's one of these, like, usually if there's a game that I really like, I would recommend it to people. But I do hesitate with this one.
Yeah.
Because you do need to have patience with it. You do really need to have patience. And like, as I said, like my flatmate, I can't remember what. I think like we got through the kind of prologue bit, and then like we kind of got into town, and that was just not for him. He'd seen enough and just wasn't interested anymore. Didn't like want to experience anymore. So you do need some kind of stamina and patience for it. And it just might not be everybody's cup of tea. You like obviously like all games are subjective at the end of the day. It is subjective opinion. But you do wonder this one. This might just not be some people's thing at all. Which is like, if it's not your thing, it's fair enough. Like, not everything is for everybody. Like other opinions are available and stuff. So, but yeah, it's just one that you always hesitate to because like, it is one that I hope people do play and I hope people experience. But it's always one that I'm always hesitant to recommend because you just don't know. You just don't know. Is it too out there? Is it one that's just like too, I don't know, too far left out of field?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's the same with something like Twin Peaks, though. It's like a show that,
Yeah,
again, you and I both enjoy, and it's one of those like comical yet like surreal shows that definitely does not fit the norm of like anything
yeah.
else. Like, at least with games like, I mean, I haven't played Alan Wake, but from what I understood of it, it seems a lot more, not linear. Linear is probably the wrong word, but you know, it's like the mechanics are a
It is
lot
more
more.
linear.
Is
It
it?
is more. I mean,
Uh,
mechanically, it's far more sound.
oh
Like
yeah,
there's,
yeah.
it like it works a lot. It plays a lot better, but it
Hmm.
is more linear. Like there's this. Some of the. It's been a long time since I played Alan Wake, but
Hmm.
some of the levels are open. But it is like you are going from point A to point B, like down a kind of set path.
Yeah.
There's maybe a bit of option to move around, but it's nothing like it's not the open world that is Twin. Sorry, that is Twin Peaks. That is Deadly Premonition.
Yeah.
And of course, Deadly Premonition has its linear parts as well. Like if you're in like the various locations, like the hospital, the sawmill, or whatever,
Yeah.
like that is linear.
Oh
But
yeah.
but then you have got an open world. But that's like I suppose like any game
Hmm.
missions. But yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a different kind of. Sorry, I'm
No, no,
sort of rambling on there.
no. Go on. Sorry.
No, I was just saying like it is that kind of different way of like it's mechanically a more sound game Alan Wake, but it is more
Mhm.
linear in kind of focus and in scope as well. To be honest, like it doesn't quite have it doesn't have this like I might sound quite like wanky for saying this, but it doesn't have that kind of the same artistic
Yeah.
vision that like I feel Deadly Premonition has.
Which is, it's just so weird because, I mean, if you didn't get like the very like subtle point we're trying to make, like about like how lightning like struck once for this game. Although there's something else I heard which I thought was like really wholesome was so this is going to sound really weird, but this is genuinely like one of the highlights when I started streaming. But I remember when I started and I was like trying to follow lots of people, and I decided to follow the people with ticks against their names essentially. And I decided to follow Swery, who's like the guy we've been
Auteur.
talking. Yeah, that's the word, the auteur. The kind of visionary behind the game, and
Go for it.
yeah, and then I woke up the next day and it was like, oh, you've been followed back by him, and I was like, what? And I think you
That's
were
so
the first
incredible.
person I messaged. I was like, look.
It's
Did you see
amazing.
this? I do think he follows like a lot of people, but he seems quite grateful for the praise he gets. Because
Yeah.
apparently, like a lot of people like were saying to him, "Oh, we love Deadly Premonition," and he initially thought people were trolling him
Oh,
because I know because a lot of people were like, "Oh, yeah, this game's never going to succeed," and "Oh, it's a rubbish idea," which I can I have to admit, I think we can all relate to that, like to some degree of putting your kind
yeah.
of effort and passion into like one project and then have other people like kind of turn around and say, oh, this isn't going to be anything, this is going to be terrible, why are you doing this. And the more like you look at it that way, the more it starts to make sense. Like with a lot of Deadly Premonition, like why they made the decisions they did, why they've got like a stupid combat mechanic and things like that. But again, it's like, that's the thing though, it's like I can't justify that. Like I can't be like, oh, even though it's janky, it adds to the endear.
Yeah.
Like it makes it more endearing. It's like, no, no.
It it does come to that. It does come to that way as well. I think that like, and it is a difficult thing. Sometimes maybe I suppose it depends. Do you want to play a game that
Mhm,
is like mechanically sound and like is a good classically, is a good
mhm,
game. Like is well put together, and perhaps it's not gonna like like blow your mind or it's gonna
yeah.
like stay with you for ages. But it's well put together and it's playable and everything. Do you want to play that, or
Mhm,
do you want to like roll the dice on a game that is perhaps like much more ramshackle in terms of its mechanics and
mhm.
everything, and even like maybe parts of its story and its like voice acting and stuff, but like really will like will make you think and like and will like kind of really engage you. So it is that way. Like I suppose
Yeah.
people just have different like and perhaps like again with this thing like I feel like I'm becoming maybe a bit more like conservative with games and that maybe sometimes I'm a bit more like I actually do kind of want to get a game sometimes that is a bit more well put together. While I think the time I played Deadly Premonition, I was at a point in my life where I was like I just want to throw the dice and let's try these games that
Yeah.
like aren't as well put together but like perhaps are like actual just like diamonds in the rough and
Mhm.
stuff. So it is that kind of dichotomy, and it's fair enough whatever way you fall because games are expensive, and like
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's like sometimes you do have to take the chance though. Like otherwise you're
I
not
think so.
like that again, like this is my turn to sound like a, gap year kind of person. But it almost feels as if it is like more of an experience than it is a game. Like, it's like, if you're looking for, like, a well-polished, mechanically sound game, as you were saying, then, yeah, this ain't it. But if you're looking for an experience where everything is so bad that, like, it loops around the world and comes back to good again, I mean, that's essentially Deadly Premonition. Like, how to put it? It's like a slab of concrete, like, wrapped in Christmas paper. It's like, I mean, someone might need concrete, but it's like at the end of the day,
but it's concrete that emotionally affects you.
Oh yeah,
It's
exactly.
a piece of concrete that you look at and you're like, damn, this concrete's going to stay with me.
This concrete's cracked, just like me. Oh, it is.
Put that on the box.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Satsunami. Just, it's cracked.
Like the best bit of concrete you'll ever look at.
Have you seen? So I had posted something in the Satsunami Society Discord, and it was one of those like edits of. Do you remember the Arkham games?
Oh yeah.
And it was like I think it was not Arkham Asylum. I think it was Arkham Knight or Arkham City, where it was like the white cover. And they had like every single logo and review on the front, like 10 out of 10, Game of the Year edition, best game, and things like that. And it was absolutely ridiculous. So someone just parodied that and put the like Deadly Premonition logo on instead. So it was like York's face, and it's like the two reviews at the bottom, and it's like, this is the best game I've ever played. Giant Bomb. This is the worst game I've ever played. Also Giant Bomb. And it's like, yeah, that is the experience.
The reviews are so, like, going on the Metacritic for this game is amazing. Just the way, like, so it spans from 100, which that site Destructoid gave it 100 out of 100. It spans all the way down to like the IGN score of 20 out of 100. Like, I don't know if any other game has ever had such just like a kaleidoscope and like reviews, just like from one end to the other and everything. But I think this adds to it as well, which maybe where I think it's probably where the attraction first came from.
Oh yeah,
it's just people were like, I want to see this. I want to see this. Like maybe this quote unquote disaster, and then people found out. Oh, actually, this really resonates, and it's actually a lot of fun. And then it just snowballed from there.
Although we've been, like hyping up, it's a very weird way of hyping up something. Although we've been hyping it up, like, what would you say? And I've actually got an example in my head for you. But what, would you say you really hated about this game? Like, what's the one kind of thing?
It's that middle section. It was that middle section.
Yeah.
So it's like there's like two murders that happen. I think it's maybe the second and third murders that happen kind of back to back. So it's like one's in an art gallery.
Yeah.
And then there's another. I can't remember what the other one is, but like
it's in a bathroom.
It's in a bathroom, yeah. When you reach a kind of modus and you go into a kind of like twisted version of the world, and like so I think you're in the house, but it kind of almost like infinitely expands. So you're having to trudge through there were long points where it really focuses on the combat, and like you're kind of having to trudge around those fighting and stuff, and some of the enemies become very annoying. And everything, and it's the worst of the game with none of it. It's all its weaknesses, but none of its strengths. Like the plot isn't really advancing anywhere. Like it's almost like filler, and it's the worst kind of filler because you're having to do the combat, and it's just really tedious. It goes on for ages, and like I just remember because I remember that was one of our sessions. We did that bit, and there was not really any we didn't really have any kind of fun with it. It was just like, oh god, let's get through this. But then I remember, I don't know if you then remember certainly for me, the thing that then brought me right back and made me absolutely fall in love with the game again was towards the end of that section. There's a fishing mini game.
Oh,
do you remember the fishing mini game?
Yeah,
that comes out of nowhere. So you have to recover a briefcase. It's a briefcase, which is in this lake. I can't remember why it's in the lake, but it's in the lake. And so this character tells you to get this briefcase. And you're like, all right. And then the next thing you don't even have to drive there. You're just at the lake. You've got this fishing rod, and it's a fishing minigame, but it's done almost like a kind of Las Vegas roulette machine where it's just spinning and you have to try and hit the button and you might get the briefcase, but you might land on picking I think there's ammo, but also I think there's useless stuff as well. And it was just such it was just wow, I don't know, I've never seen something like that. I was just it brought me completely back, and I was like, oh my god, I love this game. I fell completely in love with it back again. So even the bad points of the game, I feel like there's always something at the end that you're just this is why this game is amazing, and why you should keep going with it.
It honestly is just the fact you got that first time
I know, I'm so annoyed because I wish I played more of it.
Yeah, because it was like, basically, as you said, it's a wheel at the bottom, and you just like click, and that was it. And I was like, oh, like just very, like right away, and I was like, how did you do that? You're just like, I don't know. Just
Oh, that surprise.
yeah, there's just like
What do you think is the weakness of the game?
other than Vent Girl.
Oh, Fen Girl.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So, sorry, just to give context, when you're going through the game, you, as you said, you get these middle bits where you get like trapped in one area. So it's like you go to this like different world where it's like everything's. It's a bit like if you think of I can't believe I'm making this like comparison, but if you think of Stranger Things, it's almost like the Upside Down, but with zombies.
Yeah.
And you're walking through like this twisted alternate reality, and there's this scene where it's like you turn around a corner and there's this woman crawling, like she crawls out of a vent, she crawls in the ceiling, you have to shoot her and she takes like so many bullets, like loads.
Yeah.
So you keep like pummeling in and eventually you defeat her, turn around a corner and there's a second one. Okay, so you rinse and repeat, you do that. And then there's a third one round the corner. Yeah. And I remember you were just like at the end of your tether in that bit where it was just, it was not fun.
With the exception of, I think the only like maybe really well done enemy is the Raincoat Killer. I would say, like, unless I'm forgetting, like I think like the demon kind of boss is quite cool in like the way they've like styled him and stuff. But I just think the boss fight is not great. But,
yeah, the boss fights are very like weak. Especially with the Raincoat Killer, when you find out who it is, because it's like you don't technically fight the Raincoat Killer, you fight... It's going to sound stupid, like me saying, please, keep the raincoat on. It's like, you don't even fight the Raincoat Killer, it's like, you do, but it's like, you fight him as a jacked up...
anime version, like...
Yeah, first he's a jacked up biker, and you have to shoot him in the back, because he's got like this tattoo on his back. So throughout the game, there's a symbol that keeps coming up, and it's like a reversed peace sign, and it's not revealed until like the end game. It's actually not a peace symbol, it's a tree, which then leads them to think there's a correlation between the trees and the seeds and like the murders going on. Like really interesting. But yeah, this guy's got like a big like symbol like that in his back, like Goku. Like literally he's cut out like a circle in his back, so he's got like this glowing mark. And it was like, what is going on? And then he goes Super Saiyan. He's like got the huge like white hair that's glowing, and he's all jacked up, and it's like, oh god, it is one of those moments where I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm like, man, this didn't fit in the game. It's like, it really didn't fit in the game. I can't believe I'm saying. And then there's like one scene that's just dedicated to running. York gets kidnapped, and you have to try and find him. It puts you in the perspective of Emily, who is like the love interest in the game, and you have to follow this guy called Kason, who is like he's a plant seller, and he runs so slow because he's just ridiculously big, and you have to run behind him, and there's like this hip hop music that's like blaring just as you're chasing after him, and it's like, what even is this game? That and the skanky swine moment, that is... Sorry.
Thomas, the unsung hero of Deadly Premonition. Oh, he's so good. Like that bit. I was actually funny. I was meant to say this to you before, but I know we called ourselves the Sinner Sandwiches, but I think we should have called ourselves the Skanky Swines.
The Skanky Swines. I don't think I would have gone down too well with like Twitch.
That's probably true.
Skanky Swines play. So yeah, like. See, I was reading more into the plot, and that is one of the things that's like really... So as I said, if you're playing with friends, like, you know, and you play through like just the main story like we did, there is so much like you miss. So basically, and again, spoiler territory again, Thomas is one of the police chiefs, and it turns out, I want to say, is he basically being groomed by one of the main villains in it?
Yeah, he is basically. Yeah. him and
his sister,
murder victims, I think, as well. Like,
they're
all part of a sex kind of club thing. Which I remember when that happened. Like,
yeah,
we're sitting there like, oh god.
Yeah, I remember like obviously, like, there was no kind of, well, there was like a build up, but it was like we went down, I remember, in that level to the basement. You just saw everything, and we were both just looking at each other like, oh no. Oh, this isn't very Deadly Premonition at all. Oh no. It's like you're looking around, it's like, okay, I see this, I see that, and there's no raincoat. Son of a bitch. Okay, right, let's. It's like, case closed. We're going back up.
Please get out of here.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like when you look at that, and obviously, like, you can have a laugh at a lot of the scenes, like how ridiculous, like, they either sound or the way the animation goes. But see, at the same time, it's like if you like look at it from like an analytical kind of view, it's quite tragic. Like, all of these characters have backstories. Honestly, it's like, if they were bought by Disney, they would have a story, or a Star Wars story, like, slapped in the back of their name. Like, genuinely, it's like, there's a lot of really tragic characters. Like, another mechanic that you can do is you can peep into people's houses. I mean, you can do that in real life, but I wouldn't recommend it. But
there's less consequences for doing it in the game.
Yeah, there's less consequences. And if you do it in the game, it basically gives you like a kind of sliver, like an insight into the characters, which again is like a brilliant thing because it makes it more believable that this wasn't just like a rushed out Twin Peaks knockoff. Sometimes you'll look through and you'll see nothing, but apparently if you look through at a certain time, you'll see certain characters, you know, doing things. Like, you see Thomas apparently like sitting alone listening to like really sad and melancholy music. You see, like, if you go to Emily, something I also didn't know is, see the like side quests, that like develops a character a lot more. Like, apparently if you there's like a scene where you go in and you have lunch with, I think it's like with the police officers, and you're chatting away and they make fun of Emily's cooking and they just say, oh, she's a terrible cook. Apparently after that there's like a mini game or a side quest that was unlocked for that. So it's like you go into her house and she's actually got like black smoke or black kind of burn marks up like the wall where our cooker is.
That's amazing.
It's like really small details like that. You would never think like that they would bother, you know, to do that, because they didn't have to do that. Like, I mean, we didn't go into Emily's house, I don't think.
Yeah, we didn't go anywhere near it.
Yeah, we missed like a lot of, you know, side quests and things like that. And I feel as if, like, I mean, that's on us because it was the first time. I think, see, if you play it through the first time, then maybe you can be a bit excused. Because one of the things I thought was absolutely amazing was so something I didn't know was apparently there's a side quest that actually unlocks fast travel. Yeah, I had no idea about this, by the way, until I told you, and I think, were you not quite shocked as well?
I was completely shocked because I didn't even begin to imagine there would be a fast travel in this game, let alone that like you would be unlocked by a side quest. But that's a really cool detail as well. Like, it's so fast. Like, I think as well, like, it's really cool that like this stuff all exists. First of all, but also I think it's quite cool as well that the game doesn't tell you. Yeah. Like, this is like the only way that we discovered this. Like, we obviously missed all this stuff when we played it because we didn't, you know, we were just following the main story for the most part and everything. But like, people who have gone in and explored and actually like delved in this game have found all this stuff, and that's what's really like, that actually is really cool. I think that like you have to put the effort in to dig in, and then you can find this whole other, you can find all these other like stories and things that are happening, and it just adds like layers to this. And it kind of makes me really want to go back and play.
Yeah, same.
Go back and explore it. That's amazing though. Like, you know what, sweary top marks. Yeah. You may be some kind of mad visionary, but you know what? Like, damn, that's a hell of a well put together.
Oh, it's true though. Honestly, I'm actually surprised they never did anything with, like, this is going to sound really weird because I know Swery did Deadly Premonition, and then he moved on to, I think it was D4 was the next one.
D4, I think was the next one, yeah.
And I know he's got one coming out soon called like Good Life, I think.
Yeah, there's another one as well, like one called The Missing or something, I think, as well.
Oh, yeah. There's that one as well. But then, of course, he's got Deadly Premonition 2, which I haven't played. Deadly Premonition 2, but I literally ordered it just after speaking with you, because I nearly caught a spoiler. And this is a weird thing, like, usually with spoilers in games, I've kind of become numb to it, and I'm kind of like, oh, I don't care whether or not I get spoiled with a game. But for Deadly Premonition, it's different. It's like a game that I've been through this experience with friends. You know, like, I've fallen in love with this, like, setting. It's just, it's strange. It's like, I haven't felt that way about a game in, like, a long time.
I don't feel like you got that invested, like, in a world and, like, a kind of game story.
Yeah, it's like, have you ever... I don't know, like, can you think of any game recently that you had the same feelings for, like, as Deadly Premonition?
Yeah. There's a couple of games... I don't think I've ever been invested in a game, like, in the same way as Deadly Premonition. I've been like very invested in some game stories. Like I'm a huge fan of that. I've probably told you many times. I'm a huge fan of the Telltale Walking Dead. That first series, which I think is just like, which really like I got really emotionally invested in, really affected me. And, like I absolutely love that game. And the same way as well, like I got really kind of involved in the story of Bioshock Infinite as well. Those are the two games that I got really like kind of emotionally invested in and like really kind of dragged into. But like I totally agree with you as well. Like I really got invested in this game and this game's story in a different kind of way. Like in a way, like I feel, especially with something like The Walking Dead, like I was probably emotionally invested in stuff, you know, in these characters and everything. I feel like with Deadly Premonition, it was a kind of a range of emotion, if that makes sense. Like I feel with The Walking Dead, it was like really like, you know, it was like it was like kind of like really sadness and, you know, kind of heartbreaking, like no, like anguish at what was happening. And like there was parts of that as well in Deadly Premonition, but as well, like I just really got like so much fun out of what these characters were doing, and you know, this world, and like as well, like there was like the sense of mystery, and I was really intrigued and everything. So I feel like it really engaged a whole wide range of emotions for me. This game, everything from like humor to kind of like sadness and like, you know, to like intrigue and everything. So in that way, I totally agree with you. Like just engaged so much.
I mean, the tonal whiplash in this game's terrible. Like,
but also amazing.
Yeah, like there's something I didn't realise. I can't remember, like there's certain bits like I remember, but I remember there's one where you know the person who dies in the museum.
Yeah.
And she like has a very like bloody death where basically there's a huge like sculpture behind her and it just like topples on top of her. But then like 2 seconds later the dog comes in and his theme starts playing. It's like doon 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 doon. It's like, what? It's like, I beg your pardon. Can you say that to me one more time without the loud music blaring over this dead woman? It's like, what is going on? But again, it's like those kind of moments where it's like probably done on purpose. Like you would think like, oh, it's just, you know, it's like Swery or whoever was like mixing it being tone deaf, which maybe in some bits, maybe in some scenes you think, okay, maybe. But yeah, in this case it seems like a lot. There's a lot like you could play in this game and still not, you know, still just scratch the surface and not like get to, you know, the meat of the game.
Yeah, well, as we did, like we clearly only scratched like a bare minimum of like, you know, what this game has to offer.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's some characters who are very hostile towards you, but as I said, as per the aforementioned peeping mechanic, which I can't believe it's a sentence I'm saying today. Apparently you can see like certain characters like crying because of what's going on and just like this horrible thing. So there's like after that I thought that was quite clever where they say like, oh, people are too afraid to go out like in the rain, in the dark, so it's like they won't go because of this, you know, urban legend of the raincoat killer. That, and as I said before, memory issues of the console.
But that's a clever way of like of story of explaining in story like something that's, you know, technically a technical limitation. Which is a good thing because, you know, at the end of the day, like, the games are technically limited most of the times. But it's the games that can explain that, like, and make it make sense in a story that always, like, you know, that are the best, I think.
Oh, no, totally. And I feel as if, like, what it lacks, it kind of makes up for in its strengths.
Yeah.
Like, whether it be the characterization, whether it be, you know, even the fun mini-games and things.
Yeah.
Or, because I'm just trying to think, we didn't really do many of the mini games or the side quests, which...
No, it's a shame, really.
although I think that is something you do in any game. It's like you'll always try and just blast through it, you know?
Yeah.
You'll,
Well, as well, like because we were playing it like because obviously it was like I wouldn't play it like unless you were there and stuff. So we were only playing it in burst, so it kind of made sense for us to like go through the story that way. Well, it might have been different if like say we'd been living together like at the time or something.
Oh,
We
yeah.
might have had more chance to like let's like take some time and just do some side missions. But because like obviously I was traveling to your place or you were traveling to my place to play it,
Yeah.
it does kind of narrow its scope. So
Oh no, definitely. And as I said before, because like everyone keeps saying, "Oh, the killer's obvious" and this and that, it's like,
yeah.
like those gaps like between chapters and things. Like I think that really hindered it. That we weren't like doing it in a kind of continual basis. I mean, we were doing it in a continual basis, but not like continual enough that we were kind
Like a
of
regular kind of
yeah.
day or whatever,
Which I mean, it was a bit of a shame, but that's like that's life essentially. Like because I mean, we were both. Yeah, because we're both like busy as well, and as great as Deadly Premonition is, like
life does intervene sometimes.
Yeah, sadly we can't like put life on hold just for Deadly Premonition, which I wish we could, but
Damn, I wish we could as well.
But yeah, like to kind of like summarize, like how would you sum up? Like, sorry, first of all, before like I say it, like ask you about your final thoughts, as it were, would you recommend this game?
Oh God! Again, this is like. Do you know what? I know I said before I'm always scared to recommend it, but you know what? I'm gonna recommend it because what I've described this game as is an experience.
Yeah,
it truly is an experience in every sense of the word, and I do think it's something that like will stick with you and will stay with you. And there's a lot of fun to be had in it, and as well, just from everything you've described, like just what the mechanics, like the systems and mechanics are in the game. Everything like that really gives it a depth that I don't think a lot of other games have. Like in that way, like you almost don't need Greenville doesn't almost need to be like a GTA kind of bustling city, something like that. You might see another open world game. Like it doesn't need that because it's got this like fantastically intricate like system of like routines and everything, which just really adds to it. So sorry, I'm going well off track here, but no, I am going to recommend this game because I think it's an experience. If you, I mean, it's obviously difficult in these times but if you can, if you can in these times, or like when we are able to, socially mix and meet again, like if you can play it with somebody else, I think it's such an enhancement to the experience, and it makes it that much more fun, and it makes it that much more enjoyable, and you can be there to like push through some of the tougher parts, some of the bits that do drag a bit. At least there's somebody there you can you can switch it out and stuff. But like again, even if you can't play it with anybody else, like I think it is worth playing, just because it's such a unique product, and I don't think there's a video game like it out there. I don't think there's anything that's maybe even remotely close to it out there. So it's worth experiencing just for that, and just for like the fact this guy made this game after it was cancelled 4 times. Like that blows my mind. It's worth playing just for that fact, because you know what, this is a story of not giving up and pursuing your dream. Doesn't matter what the haters say. Doesn't matter if people say your game is whatever you're doing is gonna be terrible. Like see it through, and in that way, this game is actually like a really kind of uplifting story. So play it for that. Play it for the game itself, and play it for the story behind it.
I love how this is like this is literally a game where you're hunting a serial killer who's targeting women and shoving seeds like down their. Oh, it's like.
I'm like,
it's like
game.
It's like wholesome.
Oh no! Put that on the front cover. A great uplifting experience.
Yeah, a great uplifting. Yeah, Hallmark. It's a Hallmark moment, a Channel 5 moment over here.
I think that speaks to the fact that the game is more than its story. Just from my complete tone deaf endorsement of it, there just shows that the game is like so much more than just what its story is, and that's why it should be celebrated.
No, I totally agree with you. I do think that there is a lot that's overlooked in this game, and I feel as if I was actually really surprised. I feel like in this, and again, I don't want to be like Gapia again, but I feel like in this kind of, age that we are in, especially in lockdown as well, where obviously billions of people using the internet, every day, if this came out, I mean, don't get me wrong, if this came out, pre-internet, then I don't think it would have, succeeded as well. Like,
Yeah,
maybe it would have been like an urban legend of, oh, that one kid has deadly premonition. Oh, it's terrible.
yeah,
But I don't know if it would have been able to have, like, broken that, you know,
yeah.
that kind of limitation. And I feel as if that's a bit unfair on it. Because it's so much more than people give it credit for. Yeah, like, I mean, I totally agree with, like, your... Like, again, like, I can't believe I'm saying this as well, but I totally agree with your endorsement of this game, that someone was constantly told, this game's rubbish, don't bother with it, why are you bothering with it? Just this game that's completely different than anything else. It's... I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I can't justify a lot of it, like the bad combat, like the fact that a lot of versions crash. Like, apparently the Switch version crashes a lot.
That's a shame.
Yeah, so it's like if you like are playing for hours, you have to manually save. So it's a bit like Resident Evil. You have to go to a telephone and you have to like save your progress. If you don't save, you've lost it. Like there's no
Yeah.
autosave here. And I feel as if that's more like to blame with the developers to not patch. Well, I think they put out a couple of patches, but they never like fixed it. I think they did something similar with the second one, but that's a whole other kettle of fish, which is probably something we'll probably come back to in a couple of months once again.
Well, indeed, you're about to start playing. You're about to start playing it, and I am currently playing it thanks to a very generous Red Panda.
Oh yes,
At Christmas time. So that's another thing. So even though we won't be like playing it at watching the same game, like we're playing it like together. Like we will be playing it together in a way. So maybe come back and talk about the sequel at some point.
Oh no, we definitely need to talk about the sequel. Honestly, it's one of the weirdest things that I could like gush about, because at least with something like Twin Peaks, at least with like Twin Peaks, there is like a kind of normality element to it, if you know what I mean. Like in the sense that it's, although you've got like all of the like supernatural stuff in it, at least you've got like the kind of day-to-day like townsfolk doing like normal things, and it's just like rooted in the idea that a girl's been murdered. And to an extent Deadly Premonition has that as well, but
yeah,
I feel as if they go more off the deep end with the supernatural stuff.
Oh yeah,
where it's just suddenly, oh, there's zombies, or shadows as they're called, but it's
zombies.
Yeah, but they're not like, I don't know, are they ever explained? Like, don't get me wrong, not
I'm trying to think though. I was like, I don't know if they actually ever are.
like
Something to do with the seeds, probably.
Probably. Well, no, because he says he's always, or did he say? I don't even know. Maybe I'm just making up like excuses. But yeah, it's just, I don't know if that's just they wanted a mechanic, or they wanted you to shoot at someone, so they're like, oh yeah, zombies, which are like cut off from the rest of the world. So it's like, it's a bit weird, but what a game. That's all I can say. Yeah, what a game.
Yeah.
Satsunami
An experience,
2020. Yeah, it really is. And I can't believe, like, a game that started in 2004, had, like, no faith whatsoever, kind of blew up in, like, between 2010, which it came out at, and then re-released in, I want to say 2013?
I think it was the director's cut. I think you're right. It was the
Yeah.
2013, yeah.
Which is, again, that's insane. And for a game that's, like, everybody widely says, oh, it's, one of the worst games ever, with so much detail in it.
And
so,
then it defined a friendship as well. The most important part of the of the story.
see, this is the weird thing, because I know we kind of touched on it earlier, but I was actually wondering if that was, like, one of the moments where, Step Brothers moment where it's like, did we just become best friends? Yep. Yep.
Do you know what? I think it totally was.
Yeah. And it was like...
played Deadly Premonition in the basement.
It's like, do I? Yeah, it's one of those games where it was like, don't get me wrong, I was obviously looking forward to hanging out with you, but it was like also that idea that we were just going to be playing Deadly Premonition and, just chilling, had some snacks, just...
Yeah.
It was a nice experience. It was like it kind of goes back to, and this is going to sound really weird, but it kind of goes back to, the days of like split screen.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, it was just you and a friend, or, whoever, and you were just playing together, same game. And this isn't like it's weird, because this isn't a multiplayer game.
Yeah, the thing from a multiplayer game.
Oh, but the thing I like about it is the fact that although it's not like a multiplayer game, it's something for everyone who's there. if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like it's, you know, like one person can play the game and experience that side of it, and the other person can kind of watch. And because you know, I mean, have you ever been in that situation where you're watching someone else play a game and you're just utterly bored?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's plenty of games out there that aren't that
Yeah.
fun to watch.
Like, I mean, if you play like Call of Duty or you watch someone play Call of Duty, I mean, it's an exciting game to play, you know, it's like, oh, there's explosions everywhere and things, but it's not a very interesting one to really watch secondhand sometimes.
Yeah, not always, yeah.
Like, if you're in, like, someone else's house, unless, like, you know, pass the controller or whatever, but with Deadly Premonition, although we were passing the controller quite a lot, it's a cross between, like, this drama of this girl getting killed and everything, and yeah, just trying to uncover that in, you know, the stereotypical, you know, sleepy town America. Yeah, I'm gonna look back for the final question and just say, like, what are your final thoughts, like, for this game?
I mean, my final thoughts, I think, really are just all the memorable moments. And I was actually I wrote them down. I was writing down the memorable moments. I was just thinking back, and I was like, and that's what really defines it for me. Like, I just think back to like that bit where you get to play as the Raincoat Killer for a little bit. Like the first time you're hiding from the Raincoat Killer. That first, we talked a bit about this, that first escape sequence, which although the controls are horrible, like just kind of adds to the whole experience. We just had such a fun with that. The Sinner sandwich scene, obviously, like talked about the amazing fishing scene. Skanky swine, everything with Thomas and that bell tower, just like, you know, running after the dog, and then the pause screen. You remember the pause screen? The first time you hit pause on the game, and you're confronted with this, like, I don't even know what, like, it's just like
it's like a harpsichord jumping off a building. I want to say
you might even have to like just put a picture up on the Discord or something. Like the pause screen is just like the most, like, it's the craziest thing ever. So it's like. It's almost like an equivalent of the Black Lodge in Twin Peaks. Oh, the Red Room, yeah. It's almost like the game's equivalent of that. And there's like a moose head that's like moving around. There's like it's just, I can't even describe it. It's just so like, find a picture of the pause screen. Or I don't know if there's any video.
No, sorry, I thought you meant the sound effect that plays when you press pause.
Oh, the sound effects. I was meaning the actual screen itself.
Oh yeah, that too.
Oh my god, the sound effect is incredible as well. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's just like this loud banging, like, as I said, like a harpsichord just jumping off a building, and it's like, what is this? But yeah, as you said, there's like so much to kind of look at. Although, sorry, quickly going back to, remember how I said that this is inspired by Twin Peaks? Yeah. So, one last bit of trivia. Apparently, so throughout the game, like, the game begins, like, the game actually throws you right into it with the first cutscene. Before, like, you take control of your character, is introduced or anything, the game basically shows you, like, these two twins, like, these two children playing in the field, and they're just, you know, having a good time, essentially, with their granddad just, like, laughing and waving. So they turn a corner, and then they see this woman, like, brutally crucified on this tree, and it's, like, a horrific scene and everything. And throughout the game, whenever York is having, like, his dreams or, like, his flashbacks, he, like, sees these twins in his dream, and they keep, like, giving him advice. Like, sometimes they'll pop in, sometimes they won't. But apparently when it was Rainy Woods, can you guess, like, what the twins were initially?
Were they, like animal or something, were they, or what?
No, they were two. So you know the little person from Twin Peaks, the dancing man?
Yeah?
Yeah, it was two of them.
Oh, wow.
Just two of them sitting on a chair, clearly the same suit. And it's like, yeah, no no correlation whatsoever. Yeah, and I thought... Wow. So, no wonder it got slapped with, like, legal troubles. But I don't know, I feel as if that adds to the charm, at least.
Oh, and yeah, like, I think definitely.
Yeah,
but that's just what I think. If I was thinking about the game as final thoughts, just the fun we had playing through it, like even through the times, even through the bits that dragged, and it was fun. Like, you know, those are so outweighed by all the fun we had laughing at it and like getting engaged in the story and trying to guess and everything. Yeah. Like, there was just so many good memories. That's what I'd say my fun. A game, an experience full of just great memories.
I'd agree with that. That's not me cheaping out my final thoughts. So Being like, yes, what he said.
I concur.
I also agree with what he said. Boo.
I was the first one to say that.
It's like that Simpsons episode where they're talking about the Duff. And it's like I like this beer. I also like this beer. And they're all booing him. It's like, that man's never drunken a Duff in his life. It's like the same idea. It's like, that man's never played Deadly Premonition in his life. Although there's actually a really brilliant like Simpsons meme where it's it's the episode where Homer gets a job at the Quickie Mart and he's like terrible, and then he ends up quitting and running off into the sunset, and he says like, there goes the best worst worker I've ever had, but someone's like photoshopped that, so instead it's Deadly Premonition on top, and he's like, there goes the best worst game ever. And I feel like, although like I have criticised a lot of it, like the mechanics, like a lot of the mechanics don't hold up. Nah, I will admit that the mechanics did not hold up. But even back then, I don't think they held up.
Yeah, no, they never held up.
But at the same time, if you're looking for like a clean game, you know, with, you know, good mechanics and like a sensible story, if that's even a word. Yeah, this isn't the game. But if you're looking for a game it's gonna intrigue you, it's gonna pull you in like closer and closer with the mystery. If you get past the first bit, like the rubbish, because it's not. I'm gonna admit now, like although I'm kind of recommending to check it out, it's not gonna be everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. Yeah. Like I don't want to be like, oh, you have to be at least this smart to think. No, not at all. Like definitely people are gonna get put off by the very first couple of minutes, no doubt. But if you're playing this game, it's a bit like watching a film like Birdemic or The Room, you know. It's like you can watch it on your own and it's like a terrible mess, but it's a lot better if you watch it with friends or if you play it with friends. The only, as I said, the only exception is like if you're watching streamers play it, because I feel as if like for streamers or Let's Players, they also have that added worry that they have to entertain as well. So the probably the easy thing, which I can understand why, but the easy thing would be just to crap on the game on the outset and be like, oh, the graphics are terrible, oh, this is terrible and that, which completely justified. But if you keep like going on with that mindset, then it's gonna take away from the hidden layer underneath. Like being able to talk to the townsfolk, being able to follow them. And that is something, like, for a game that, as I said, was developed in 2004 and is like 11 years old, that is a game that still has characters get up in the morning, do their everyday chores, you know. And also, that is the thing, like, I love the fact that it reveals plot twists and things. Or not plot twists, but like certain aspects of the game where, you know, you see someone go down to the basement and you go, oh, what's that all about? Or you see two characters going on a date and then one might not show up and you're like, oh, why is that not happening? You know, all of these things, like all of these small, minute things, which it almost feels as if, like, it's trying to use like a strip of duct tape to like stop like this wave, like a leaky, you know, I don't know, like a leaky tanker or something. Or a leaking boat, almost. Let's say a leaking boat, you know. It's like trying to patch it up with like one strip of like water. I was going to say waterproof, not waterproof, but what's the opposite of waterproof? Just normal. Like sellotaping it up, essentially. Yeah, and somehow, like through some miracle, it holds together. And it's like, it's a miracle game in the weirdest way possible. So if you're the kind of person that likes Twin Peaks and like a very weird experience with your games, I would say go for it. Even read some of the non-spoiler reviews or something, like, to see. But yeah, I would recommend it. Like, I'm gonna get messages, like, if someone listens to this and then I'm gonna get messages, like, weeks later saying, why the hell did you make me watch or play this? And I'll be like, yeah, I'm sorry.
And as you say, it's not it's not going to be for everybody.
Yeah,
like most, you know, like most things in life, like not everybody likes every single thing, and it's maybe especially with this one. But you know what? Maybe take a roll of dice. If you feel adventurous, roll the dice. You never know. You might just end up loving it.
Yeah,
End up joining the cult like us. In which case, if you do, we'll see you at the next meeting.
Yeah, that's true. Well, the next Zoom meeting, you mean?
Well, that's true. Yeah.
I was gonna make a joke saying, "Oh, bring bacon," but I was like, "Wait, no, that's not socially
Oh,
distant."
bring your own bacon to your own to your own Zoom.
Yeah.
To your own Zoom call.
Yeah, exactly. Try not to eat it too loudly. Mute yourself.
Make sure you get that skanky swine bacon as well.
Oh God, imagine. So many. I'm just trying to think of any. No, I don't think there is. There is so much like you could talk about with Deadly Premonition, and I'm really.
Like our playthrough of it, I feel like we've only ever scratched the surface of what it is, but like maybe that's for the best. Like
if you have played the game, then there's like lots of like I would even recommend like looking up, and this is a really weird thing to recommend, but I would recommend looking up like just the story of how this game was made. It's just so bizarre, so weird, yet somehow, like the game itself, it's just so endearing to see, that despite 4 cancellations and people saying it wasn't going to work, he did it anyway. And it's not perfect, but I mean, if it was like terrible, if it was like something like Big Rigs or Highway to Hell or something, we wouldn't be talking about it really today for 2 hours.
Yeah. Or we'd be doing it very sarcastically and mockingly.
Yeah, to be like, oh, best game ever.
Yeah.
I mean, even, I kind of noticed that though, like when you were saying about the combat thing, like you weren't as mad as when you had to watch Bone Alone. That's all I'm saying.
That's true. There you go. That's my endorsement. It's far superior to Bone Alone.
Yeah, it's not Bone Alone. 10 out of 10. Yeah, and on that note, thank you so much, Adam, for joining me in this.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming on to this weird and wonderful episode of Satsunami. What an episode.
Indeed. One for the ages.
As always, Adam, thank you so much for joining us. Or joining me. Did you hear that, Zach?
Oh my God!
Oh, yeah.
It's happening.
No,
thank you so much for having me, and thank you everybody for listening along. And hopefully you enjoyed me rambling about my incoherent. This was a proper incoherent. I know I've joked about incoherent ramblings before, but I think this was a proper. My notes were just like a single things. Being like, remember to talk about this and this and this.
No, it's a team effort this time. I think I rambled.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I rambled probably as much as you did in that one.
You know what? If there was a game to ramble about, it'd be this one. And it was a lot of fun, just like talking about this and just thinking about it again and being like, man, that was such a fun experience. Like, definitely one of the best, like, most fun experiences I've had playing a game. Yeah, and that was as much to do with the game as it was to do with the company. So, thank you, Satsu, for giving me a love of Deadly Premonition.
You're very welcome. Although I'm dreading the day that like this podcast or this particular episode blows up and someone's going to watch it and be like, oh, I wonder what this is like, and it's they actually listen to it and it's just like, why did you make me play Deadly Premonition? And it's like, I swear to God, it was better when Adam and I played it, and they're like, who the hell's Adam? And it's like, listen, it was good. Okay,
I don't have time to go into lore, damn it.
So it begins with the trees. Loraxing it up. So yeah, if you want to follow me anywhere else for my ramblings on Deadly Premonition, yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, of course, and TikTok, all under the name Satsunami42. As always, guys, thank you all so much for listening. Yep, as always, stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, don't eat the red seeds, because a tree's going to grow in your belly. Probably. That's what Deadly Premonition taught me anyway, hopefully. Was that an evil
Better
chuckle?
to be safe. It was whatever chuckle you want it to be.
It was more the...
like Deadly Premonition, it can mean many things.
It was more the laugh and the, oh no, how terrible. Sipping the tea.
Oh no, what a shame.
What a terrible day. What a terrible day for the stream. Okay, bye guys.